had that shooting on the boardwalk. Just months ago, he passed permitless concealed carry in Florida. Yeah. You don't even need a permit. That's like permitless driving. That's ridiculous. But at least with driving, there are feasibly a lot of other things you could do with a car other than murder. So these Republicans are very dangerous. They are taking a scary situation in this country and making it much worse. And yeah, unfortunately, we just have to be vigilant about it.
Yeah, we do. And I just don't understand what it is about the Second Amendment. You know, this whole that is absolute, that it is somehow more important than any other amendment to the Constitution and or the whole foundational premise of this nation, forming a more perfect union, right? All of this rhetoric, beautiful rhetoric, because if we lived up to it, it would be a hell of a thing. I want to see us live up to forming a more perfect union or the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. How can you get life, liberty, and happiness if we got to deal with gun violence? I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's impossible.
I don't. Well, sisters and brothers, family and friends, that is our time on the show today. What is gonna happen? We gave you a lot to think about. Again, so great to have Dan here to unpack a lot of this. You guys, please continue the conversations in your households and in your communities. Even though we gave you this news, what is reality today? I want you to know does not have to be the reality tomorrow. We all have an obligation to make the places and spaces that we occupy better. And we have an obligation to hold our elected leaders accountable. We do. So let's get to doing that. Let's take a page out of our Francis book. Let's take to the streets, make some demands, and make sure there are consequences. You know what I want you to do. I want you to keep faith always, always. But with that faith, baby, we got to have a whole lot of fighting. Until next time.
What is up, everybody? We've got something for you. Watch this.
Hey guys, it's George Santos. I'm actually here in New York. I'm in my colleague's district, in AOC's district, and I'm driving by with a good friend of mine this Memorial Day, and I see this car in her district. Whoever owns this car, you ain't wrong, and I gotta tell you something, you warm up my heart just to know that you live in AOC's district. Just proves the point that not everybody in NY14 is as crazy as she is. Keep it up.
George Santos is trying a little bit too hard to be cool and relatable, but if you zoom in on the car there, he's praising a Trump supporter in AOC's district, but he may have not noticed the QAnon slogan, where we go one, we go all. Right on the car that he's very happy to see in AOC's district. So New York always has its share of interesting characters. Anthony DeValder, George Santos being one of them. He's facing 13 charges for his misadventures. And here to break down this craziness and more with me is Ben Gleib. Ben, how you doing?
What up, Burbs?
What up?
I'm doing all right. I don't know if George Santos missed the QAnon slogan. George Santos is a QAnon slogan. His existence is QAnon personified. He's slowly merging into a Q. The shape of his body is becoming Q-like. I just can't wait till the stick comes out the side. Little kickstand.
Except with George Santos, the Q in QAnon stands for queer. It's Queer Anonymous. My favorite video of George, as someone who always wanted a gay villain in Congress to represent, our community, is when they said, Mr. Santos, what's your comment on who's gonna win Drag Race this season? And he just turns around like, it's the best video ever. Have you seen that one, Ben?
I have not, but you recreated it pretty good. I feel like I have seen it now.
Well, we have some more exciting stuff to show the people. Not that video, but some great news of the day. Ben, you ready to get into this?
I've never been more ready for anything in my whole damn life.
Well, then let's do it. All right, watch this, everybody.
Well, prior to this deal, Kaylee, our country was careening towards bankruptcy. And after this deal, our country will still be careening towards bankruptcy. And to say you can do 4 trillion of increases in the next year and a half, that's a massive amount of spending. I think that we've gotten ourselves on a trajectory here really since March of 2020 with some of the COVID spending. It totally reset the budget, and they're sticking with that. And I think that that's just going to be totally inadequate to get us in a better spot. Look, in Florida, we run big budget surpluses. We have a $1.2 trillion economy, but our debt is only 17 billion, second lowest per capita in the country. But we make tough choices, and we make sure that we look forward to the long haul. Obviously, in Washington, D.C., they do these cycles to just get them through the next election, and that's ultimately one of the reasons why they continue to fail.
All right, DeSantis is taking shots at Trump this week. Mom and dad are fighting, but he's doing it without calling him out by name. And so they're fighting without fighting directly with each other at this point. Trump, of course, calling DeSantis by name, but him not returning the favor. Now, the issue of raising the debt ceiling, something that they've made an issue that doesn't need to be, but it's looming over Congress right now. The finalization of the debt ceiling deal is currently under review by Biden and Kevin McCarthy. And they'll be fine while they've held everyday working Americans economically hostage. And is this the ending of it all? It's not a good ending. It's not the best outcome. Look at this headline. What the debt ceiling deal means for student loan payments, the legislation would require the administration to begin collecting student loan payments from millions of people by the end of the summer. So this legislation would end the pause on student loan repayments within 60 days from its signing. So now, what DeSantis said earlier about the debt ceiling under Donald Trump has some truth to it. So House Democrats recapped how the debt ceiling was handled while Trump was president. Jamie Raskin made the flagrant accusation that House Republicans raised the debt ceiling 3 times and increased the debt under Trump's term. Let's watch.
To the bondholders of the United States that we would pay their debts as we are fiscally, morally, politically, and constitutionally required to do. And yet, Donald Trump has issued the order. He said it's inevitable. Default on the debt of the United States for the first time in American history. Crash the economy. lose 9 or 10 million jobs. And so now, in the words of Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, who appears not to be here right now, the GOP will not negotiate with their hostage. Who's the hostage? The American people are the hostage. Our government is hostage. The Constitution is hostage. So I want to introduce the MAGA Republicans who have split today, but who increased the debt ceiling 3 times under Donald Trump, who gave us a quarter of all the debt of the United States between George Washington and Joe Biden. I want to introduce them to the Constitution of the United States. The validity of the public debt shall not be questioned.
All right, so that was a whole thing. And then we had Pramila Jayapal also recap that under the Trump administration, there were $2 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthy.
Amy is your hostage. She and millions like her, teachers, firefighters, seniors, veterans, are demanding that Republicans stop playing games with their lives. Donald Trump presided over the 3rd largest deficit increase in the debt ever because they spent almost $2 trillion on tax cuts for the wealthiest billionaires. And now they want poor and working people to pay that bill. Stop it. Pass a clean debt ceiling right now.
All right, so DeSantis was correct about the debt increase under Trump. However, he failed to mention in his righteous speech about how the debt is so bad and the country's going bankrupt that while he was in Congress up to 2018, his tenure involved raising the debt limit several times. So it's something that is standard procedure. The debt ceiling, as we've covered on TYT a lot, is not something that's necessary to have in place. Many countries have no debt ceiling whatsoever. Basically, what they are doing is they're saying, well, we don't really like the budget of this prior Congress, so we're gonna pretend that we don't have enough money to cover our expenses as a country, even though we print the dollars. It's impossible for them to go bankrupt. They're basically getting a credit card bill, calling the lender and saying, we want to renegotiate everything we've decided to spend money on. You can't do that, it's ridiculous, but they found a way to do it anyway, holding the Constitution and the American people hostage. Ben, I want to bring you in here. What do you make of DeSantis's very desanctimonious speech in front of that battleship? I think it was, maybe a green screen.
Yes, it could be green screen. Because he is DeSantis, the Kermit the Frog of all candidates. I do love having him with a naval ship in the background. We all know his storied naval record as a warrior for this country. Wait, that's not true. I'm being told that's not at all true. Okay, interesting. You said that we don't need to raise the debt ceiling in America, Jessica, because other countries don't even have one. But I disagree with you. It's because other countries might not be as addicted to false drama as we are. We do need to do this every
for emotional reasons.
That's correct. Emotional reasons. It's sort of a need to keep ourselves hostage, to be able to control and create false fear and manufactured news cycles so that they can continue to not tackle anything that actually matters. And so who are we as Americans if we don't make ourselves feel every year or two like we're not going to approve paying our own bills? I've said it for minute one. I didn't even care about this story because of course they were gonna make a deal last second. So McCarthy can go in front of his cameras and close his eyes orgasmically and say, we've reached a deal. And Biden can half asleep and half more asleep say, well, folks, listen, we did a great deal here, folks. And even though it's not a great deal and I agreed to stuff I didn't need to agree to because this whole thing is stupid and I could have instead pulled the 14th and just passed it instead. But what I want to do is make it more complicated and make my agenda less effective and do less stuff to help people. Come on, folks. And so I feel like we're in a good place.
Okay, here's how I think the convo happened. I think you're right. I think it was Democrats and Republicans at a table. What's the substance of the conversation? What is best and fiscally necessary for our country? No, it was what will look best for our party establishment as Democrats and as Republicans, what would look best for our respective constituencies and the people we've been paid to govern in favor of, not the people we've been elected to represent. It was how do we look good coming out of this? Democrats want to make it seem like they were in a position where they didn't have a lot of power in this whatsoever, even though Biden could have invoked the 14th Amendment. They wanted to make it seem like, hey, we fought really hard and we didn't cut as many public programs as they wanted to. What do the Republicans want coming out of this? Well, they want to make it seem like they've made some cuts to public spending. And none of this is actually what is of consequence for the American people. What is of consequence to the American people? Having public goods. Like, the reason we have a government at all is because, like, Ben, if you and I had children, let's imagine a world where we have children other than your dog Henry and my dog Jonesy, like real human children that need to go to school and get an education, right? We want them to go to a school. If you and I pooled our money together and we hired a teacher, that wouldn't be a great education for our kids. But if we get everybody in the neighborhood to pool their resources together, hey, now we have a school, right? It's probably not the greatest school, say, if we had the resources of the whole city or the whole state. That's what government is. It's us pooling our resources together so we can have more than we could if we tried to live in the world as individual human beings. The idea that we should defund the government has become so popular that we have to convince people that any public spending is good at all. Like, it's absurd that they frame the national debt like it's a bad thing. All it is the total dollars the US government has put into the economy as public spending that it hasn't taxed back out yet. That is not a bad thing. That is good, as Stephanie Kelton puts it, and I think it helps explain it well. Their reading, what they write down as money going out, is our blacking. That's stuff that's putting resources to use to make our lives actually better. And so they make it seem like it's this crazy thing. And of course, they never ever talk about touching the $858 billion allocated to military spending. Any final thoughts on this one, Ben?
Yeah, if anything, it's just silly that we borrow so much money from our adversaries and people we don't have strong relationships with, because that's the only way in which, as I see it, we put ourselves at any risk, because theoretically they could call in that debt, but they don't and they won't, because it would cause great economic catastrophe for themselves as well. So it's sort of a mutually assured destruction, but still maybe an unnecessary step to have taken. I also just think it's absurd how the right in this country is just, they ride the Constitution so hard, and on the left, we are so afraid to even ride things in the Constitution as written. I mean, they ride the Second Amendment far beyond the words. They say you can't touch it when literally, and it can't be abridged or amended, and you can't touch our guns when literally the one sentence of it has like 3 caveats. You can only have it for a well-regulated militia, and only in this case and that case, and they just say you can't touch it. And straight up, we have the 14th Amendment that says the president can just say, nope, we're not gonna default on our debts. And he says, we're not gonna touch it. We're not gonna actually hold true to our own Constitution, rather subject ourselves to this drama. It's just pointless and stupid.
Yeah, suddenly they're like, the Constitution, the what? We don't need that, forget it. And Janet Yellen's like, why don't we just prioritize what we're gonna actually default on and what we're gonna spend money on? It's like the Constitution says you can't do that either. The foreign countries holding US Treasury bonds thing is interesting. It doesn't scare me as much as I think a lot of people are scared by it. The US government can just hit a button and make good on those obligations, right? That they can credit the accounts as necessary. Would it be an inflationary pressure if then all of those dollars were injected back into the economy and people spent money? Maybe. Do we think that's gonna happen? No, because I think you make a really good point that our global economy is so intertwined that we all have a vested interest in not having runaway inflation of the dollar. But it honestly doesn't scare me. Other countries having demand for our currency, I think, is good fiscally. All right, let's move on. Enough about the debt ceiling. We've been talking about this like crazy. Let's watch this.
Hello, United States of America and the world. My name is Jacob Angeli Chansley, and I would like to start this official statement by thanking God Almighty for protection and blessings along this arduous journey of mine. You know, I once heard that school teaches us lessons and gives us a test, but God gives us a test and teaches us lessons. And to say the least, I have most certainly learned numerous lessons during the test which God has graced me with over the last 2.5 years. Now, one of the most important lessons I learned was patience. See, the world is currently going through turmoil, the likes of which many of us were not prepared for by our schools, by our governments, and our cultural upbringing. However, patience is key if we are to overcome the obstacles before us and simultaneously turn them into opportunities for unity, love, and peace.
Now, if you're like me, you might be wondering, who is that guy? Well, here's a photo you might recognize him from. Look at this. Oh, the QAnon Shaman. Yes, this is Jake Angeli Chansley, better known as the QAnon Shaman, officially a free man? Here's reporting from Raw Story. Chansley was sentenced to 41 months in prison in November of 2021 after he pleaded guilty to charges related to January 6th. He was moved to a halfway house and released last week. Prosecutors say that while he did not commit any violence on January 6th, he played an effective role in goading others to breach the Capitol building. So as soon as he was released from his halfway house, it didn't take long for him to double down on his beliefs that kind of got him into this mess in the first place. And he decided he's gonna profit off of his notoriety. One of the first things Chansley did after being released was launch an extensive line of merchandise. Much of the new merch he's selling uses his own image alongside a new title, America's Shaman. That's an apparent attempt to expand his appeal beyond QAnon supporters. The array of merchandise is impressively large, includes stickers, buttons, mouse pads, copies of Chansley's mugshot, yoga mats, yoga leggings, t-shirts, baseball socks, which are currently sold out. Maybe that tells us about the baseball community in our country, hoodies and mugs. Most of the items have Chansley's face printed on them, including Shaman Heart skater dress, which features his face not once, but twice. So you can see what some of this merchandise looks like. We've got Chewbacca. It's a good play on words. Here are the leggings. These are scary. These, if I saw someone wearing this, I would double take and be terrified. So what's next for Chansley? Well, according to him, he's gonna be a spiritual guide. That's beautiful. Let's watch.
The next part of my journey entails using the power of patience and peace to spread the truth and to do so in the spirit of a Christ-like forgiveness. In closing, Gandhi once said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. So it seems I've already undergone the first 3 stages of this process. Now, all there is left to do is win. Remember, knowledge always overcomes power.
What? So how is he gonna win? Well, spoiler alert, he's gonna grift some more. He's gonna add some grift to his grift for his grift. It's like the pimp my ride of grift. So more reporting from Vice. There is also merchandise advertising Chansley's, quote, Forbidden Truth Academy project, which, quote, seeks to improve the lives of its members and transform the world through education and mentorship, offering services to increase IQ, expand consciousness, and enhance personal evolution. Chansley's Academy offers courses with titles including Interdimensional Insights and The Truth About Climate Change. Those who want even more forbidden truth can purchase one-on-one sessions with Chansley himself for $500 a pop. So Ben, are you gonna be spending $500 to have a one-on-one with the Q Shaman?
Not again. Worst 500 I ever spent. Yeah, I learned a lot about climate change, but then it started to seem like he was making stuff up, and then he started howling, and I was like, wait a minute, maybe this guy doesn't know anything about science or interdimensions or even this dimension. I mean, the people that attended his like welcome event at the religious gathering of idiots in Arizona, you just saw even the sides and backs of their heads is just the dumbest sides and backs of heads possible. To see a man who painted his face like he was going to Burning Man, all respect to my Burning Man family, and did it while committing treason in my estimation by breaking into the Capitol building and trying to stop the fair and free certification of our election. You're gonna go to this man for spiritual guidance, for any sort of guidance, for anything. You should be investigated. You should be on a list, and I'm not a fan of government lists, but I make exceptions when the ultra stupid are banding together to make our country stupider and more dangerous.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the movie Chicken Little a lot lately because I had the cursed thought that was forced upon me. What if the conspiracy theorists are right about any of their conspiracies? You know, Chicken Little, where the chicken's running around like the sky's falling, the sky's gonna fall, the aliens are gonna come, and you guys are gonna regret not listening to me, and then the aliens like actually come. I think that movie's kind of dangerous. It kind of affirms people who get so deep into these conspiracy theories. My whole thing is the truth about the deep state is far more interesting than any fiction the human brain can come up with. When you think about the ongoings of the CIA under the Eisenhower and the Reagan administration, they were painting planes to look like military helicopters in Guatemala and running fake radio out of Miami to make it seem like there was a war in the country so they could coup the leader in the United States. Based multinational corporation, the United Fruit Company, could then extract their land and labor and resources and keep selling bananas. Like, that's crazy. That actually happened. Like, there's declassified documents about that. But instead, they're reading the fiction and we believe this guy's gonna raise your IQ. I'm just not buying it, Ben.
I agree, even though the only thing good to come out of the that era's banana republic was a great array of khaki pants and an affordable sweater. You know, I myself also do regret having paid $500 to a little chicken who did tell me the sky was falling, and it's because climate change is real. So I'm getting very conflicting messages from my spiritual leaders, and I just need time to think. And by think, I mean definitely not think at all.
And now the whole world has gone bananas. That's what we're trying to tell you. And we've got more of that after this break.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
What's happening? I'm Dr. Rashad Ritchie, host of Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Here's the bottom line. I play no games about policy, period. Too many people's lives are at stake. So here's what I do. I challenge conservative ideology that hinders the growth of this country. I make sure we place our facts in proper context, and I have no problem debating anyone on a position that I have. Progressives have the ideas to change the world, but when you really look at it, progressives have always changed this world for the better. I want you to tune into my new show, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, right here on the TYT Network, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. I'll see you there.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change.
Welcome back to the Watch List. It's Jessica Burbank and Ben Gleib here with you, and Dissident PM, who says maybe pretending that the party of sedition, insurrection, bigotry, Christo-fascism, and domestic terrorism is a legitimate political party isn't going so well. Now that could be in response to any of the stories we covered, whether it's George Santos, DeSantis, or the QAnon Shaman. But thank you for your comment. I really.
But that's also a great. That's a great new nickname for DeSantis, George DeSantos.
Yeah, there we go.
Ron DeSantos, either way.
We got to AI their faces together for that. Jennifer Learned says, first, I love TYT. Ben said, I almost can't handle how beautiful you are, Jessica. But since I happen to be straight, I'm very happy the handsome and funny Ben is here.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
Looks like, I love that she hit on both of us in the same comment.
Yeah, but she's straight. She's here for you, Ben. That's all you. Jennifer's all you, but thank you, Jennifer.
Listen, I'll take it. Also, somebody apparently called you Farrah Fawcett, which is better than what I get compared to usually, which is a ferret drinking out of a faucet. Very different.
Ben, where do you come up with that? I don't know how Ben's brain works. There's another comment that I really wanted to read in honor of JR, who is under the weather today. Sexy Speed Racer says, Ben and Jessica, as JR says, it's the best damn day of the week. Yes, I know it's Tuesday, but it's virtual Monday. That's right, it was a holiday weekend. It's basically Monday. It's de facto, best day of the week because of the scheduling issues. JR's not here, but we're gonna do our best to hold it down for him.
It's also why I wore a sport coat today, but a sports coat, not a sport coat.
For the watch list vibe. I should have worn my ball cap. Sorry, JR. We let you down. Damn. All right, but Ted Cruz has gone woke? I'm not sure. Ted Cruz is under fire after tweeting this about a new law in Uganda after the country, Uganda, passed its most reactionary, draconian law towards the gay community there. Here's what Ted Cruz said. This Uganda law is horrific and wrong. Any law criminalizing homosexuality or imposing the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality is grotesque and an abomination. All civilized nations should join together in condemning this human rights abuse. Hashtag LGBTQ. So we have details on Uganda's law. This is what their new law that is very anti-gay. It's a bill. Here's what it stipulates. The bill signed into law by President Yoweri Museveni does not criminalize those who identify as LGBTQ+, but prescribes the death penalty for, quote, aggravated homosexuality. Aggravated homosexuality is defined as cases of sexual relations involving people infected with HIV, as well as with minors and other categories of vulnerable people. So the Biden administration, in response, has threatened sanctions against Uganda if the law is not repealed. So Cruz took bipartisan outrage after tweeting about this, which is interesting. Ted Cruz has gone woke. Here's what Philip Oliver Holtz, parentheses alpha male, says. Ted Cruz is a woke beta male. He should be removed from office immediately. Okay, here's what Scott 84 Henderson said. Globalist Canadian masquerading as a fake cowboy says what? That's a good burn. I think you utilize the woke terms of minor attracted people and younger attracted persons behind closed doors. And the criticism from the other side has a lot to do with Ted Cruz's and his party's actions towards the gay and trans community in the United States. Michael Vandemar says, great, now call out Ron DeSantis for his law where teachers can't even say gay in schools. Then Law Prof Blog said, how's the Texas GOP treating trans people this legislative session? And they're not wrong. Ted's rhetoric and the bills that he's advocated for on our soil here have involved direct attacks on the LGBTQ+ community. Here's Ted's thoughts on the Supreme Court's decision on gay marriage.
So look, Obergefell, like Roe versus Wade, ignored 2 centuries of our nation's history. Marriage was always an issue that was left to the states. In Obergefell, the court said, no, we know better than you guys do. And now every state must sanction and permit gay marriage. I think that decision was clearly wrong when it was decided. It was the court overreaching.
And then he said he would vote against a bill to codify gay marriage. Here's a headline from that. Ted Cruz says he will vote against bill to codify same-sex marriage protections. On an episode of his podcast, the US Senator said the bill would be an attack on religious liberties. And then he threatened to investigate Anheuser-Busch for, quote, marketing to kids over the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light campaign. Let's watch.
Investigate what Bud Light was doing with Dylan Mulvaney. It destroyed a brand that may not recover. What's your focus?
Well, listen, I can't think of a company in modern times that has more alienated its customer base and seem to have so little understanding of who it is that actually drinks Bud Light. But this week I sent a letter to the CEO of Anheuser-Busch along with Senator Marsha Blackburn, because the CEO of Anheuser-Busch is also the CEO or the chairman of the Beer Institute, which is the regulatory body, the industry regulatory body that regulates itself. And one of the rules that beer companies are supposed to follow is they're not supposed to market to kids. Remember the whole Joe the Camel thing? This is the same thing here. Well, you know what? Dylan Mulvaney, a massive percentage of Dylan Mulvaney's audience are kids. And Budweiser was trying, I believe, with this ill-fated marketing attempt to target teenagers.
Okay, all right. I think Ted Cruz, who is a sitting US Senator saying, I'm gonna write a letter, I wrote a letter, is the most comedic thing you can possibly do. It's like when Joe Biden tweets, we have to do something about student loan debt. Bro, you're the president of the United States. Not to mention, Ted Cruz's cause is 10 times more ridiculous than the example for Biden. Bud Light being advertised by Dylan Mulvaney, seriously? It's like they want it to be socially unacceptable to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community in public, but they want you to, be legally allowed to be gay. I just don't want to see it. Like, it should be legal, but Ted Cruz doesn't want to see it. That's what I'm gathering from this, Ben. What do you make of it?
I mean, Ted Cruz doesn't want to see it outside of his own bedroom, probs. Those who protest too much, you just have to wonder. And I support Ted in finally coming out. Him and Lindsey, I believe, have had a great relationship. It's just so stupid. We've gotten so stupid. I can't stand when people betray their priorities in statements where they don't intend to, but you can just see how just simply capitalist and money hungry their world perspective is, saying there on Fox News, clearly Bud Light has no idea who their customer base is. No, they know very well who their customer base is. They are trying to expand it to be inclusive of all human beings. And Ted can't even understand the concept. He's like, they're gonna lose business. They're gonna lose cold hard cash if they say that trans people are actual human beings. How could they possibly do it? It doesn't make sense. So then when he comes out now and makes the very bland statement of saying, well, the Ugandan government should not be punishing with life in prison somebody for having homosexual relations, and it's an outrage of the base of his that he has stoked and fearmongered to, and said that gay people are not equal in this country, is just reaping what he sows in a very obvious, predictable way that it's just insane to even come. I mean, it's good that he's coming out and saying that, yeah, people shouldn't be put to life in prison for gay sex. I think it's weird that he included in his short little tweet the aggravated homosexuality part, because I don't think that gay or straight sex with minors or people who are not consenting should be allowed anywhere, and that probably is a candidate for the death penalty if you're having sex of any kind against people's will. So the fact that he decided to say that was abhorrent was just weird, and felt like he didn't research the topic well. But of course, this bill in Uganda is not just Uganda alone. It's spreading throughout a lot of African countries. In Kenya and in Ghana, they are proposing and soon going to be bringing up bills that are even more restrictive if that were even possible. And of course, that doesn't just come from the countries themselves. It's often pulled from the Christian right in this country. Family Watch International, an Arizona-based group, is who helped organize this in Uganda, held a conference of anti-gay sentiment in African countries held in Uganda. And also, of course, this kind of thing happens very often, not because of the held belief of the leaders in a country like Uganda that truly don't want gay sex happening behind closed doors. They don't care or know, nor should they. It's because of rising unemployment in the country. It's because of skyrocketing prices and the fact that, as is always done here in America effectively, and they're taking a page from us in our playbook, is to distract, and scapegoat innocent groups of human beings doing what they naturally are inclined to do due to who they were born to be, and using them to be an excuse for piss poor leadership. And so that's the reality we find ourselves in. So Ted making a mild statement is just the very tip of the iceberg on a very complex, very insulting, disgusting issue.
Yeah, I want to believe so badly that elected officials in the United States are uniquely stupid and incapable of doing their jobs. And then stuff like this reminds you that this is happening all over the world, where you have this playbook where it's like, we're doing a terrible job running the economic system, delivering public goods. People are struggling to eat, but look, he's gay. Like, let's all look at the gay guy. Isn't that a problem? Doesn't that make you feel a little bit weird? It seems a little bit weird. It's absurd, but we have this blind spot when it comes to our own country, as Ted Cruz demonstrates. He's so pissed off about what's going on in Uganda that when he looks at what's happening in the United States, he's saying homophobic stuff, but condemning it elsewhere. I think every member who serves in the US Congress should have to go study abroad, go live in another country, because you get a more sober analysis of what's happening in the United States. Whenever we see protesting abroad, in China, for example, and we see how militarized police in China treat protesters, we're like, how could they do this? Let's get the UN peacekeeping troops in there. But when it happens in the United States, it's, how are people rioting like that? They shouldn't be rioting like that. Who cares if our police killed someone by kneeling on their back? Of course the police should subdue the rioters, but when it's another country and it's militarized police there, it's what an oppressive government. And so I really think it's very difficult to travel abroad and it's expensive. But when I think about how big our military budget is, $858 billion, maybe a cut of that could be spent sending Ted Cruz abroad so he gets a little bit of a sense of what government is like beyond the blinders of his own parochial interests. I think it's really necessary. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think maybe even beyond sending Ted Cruz abroad, we should send Ted Cruz a gay broad or a gay dude to talk to, so they could actually realize that they're human beings. You know, you don't have to go far to learn that lesson, but it is so true. And it's the orthodoxy that never gets questioned, the bigger issues, the political infighting that happens purposelessly, yet the debt ceiling deal comes with, of course, we're gonna keep all spending flat except military spending. And that it is something we can always keep upping, despite how irresponsible it is for us to be taking care of people in need in the country. So we're just built on shaky foundation morally, and just in any intellectual way where you use your brain to realize how stupid most of these arguments are. And so there's no real way to reconcile it. We have to just vote these people out and hope that they don't, twist the reality so much more than they already are, that they keep re-winning office, but they seem to. So it's an uphill battle always. And I just am a big advocate for, as you pointed out, Jessica, us criticizing the issues abroad in other countries. That I wanted to clarify that I didn't mean abroad. Like I said earlier, that we do have the same problems here. Is we should put an immediate moratorium on the construction of glass houses here in America.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna amend my earlier proposal that, considering how much debt we have as a country, and 858 billion is a lot of money, maybe just a one-way plane ticket for Ted Cruz. Let's just send him off. Let's just exile Ted Cruz. That's my new proposal. All right.
I love it.
You mentioned Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is where we are going next, and it also involves foreign relations. So we're right on topic. It's true. US Senator Lindsey Graham, in his Friday meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky in war-torn Ukraine, this is Lindsey Graham. he was in a meeting and he's caused outrage and fury in Moscow now with the head of Russian television, Margarita Simonyan, calling for his assassination. This is the video that caused the Russian outrage.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
It's the best money we've ever spent. Thank you so much.
No, it's...
Seems pretty damning, right? Here we have Lindsey Graham calling for an assassination. It turns out the video is edited. That video was edited according to some reporting from the Daily Beast, who said in a video clip of the meeting, Graham's comments were spliced in a way that made it seem that the senator stated that the fact that Russians, quote, are dying in the invasion is, quote, the best money we've ever spent. In fact, Graham said that the United States' aid to Ukraine, and not specifically the deaths of the Russians, was a valuable investment in global security for the United States. So what originally happened was Graham, who is shown in a video clip of his meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky in Kyiv on Friday, he acknowledged that his host praised for military assistance valued at $38 billion since the outset of the conflict in February 2022. Graham then said that the help was the best money the US has ever spent. Here's a quote from Reuters. Graham said he was visiting on the 457th day of war that Russia had assumed would be completed within 3 days. And Graham said Ukrainians resisting the invasion reminded him of, quote, our better selves in America. There was a time in America that we were this way, fighting to the last person. We were going to be free or die. Now you are free, Zelensky responded in the encounter, and we will be. Graham replied, and the Russians are dying. Zelensky then added, yes, but they came to our territory. We are not fighting on their territory. So this is when Russian officials started to denounce Graham. Initial extracts of the conversation released by Zelensky's office had not made clear that the two remarks were made in different parts of the conversation. So they were spliced together. Once the Ukrainian president's office released the complete remarks, it showed that there was no link between the two. So let's watch the original video.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
It's the best money we've ever spent. Thank you so much.
No, it's...
All right, so by original video, I don't mean the unedited video. I mean the first video that we showed here. So that clip that is spliced together went viral in Russia, causing these reactions from Russian figures. Quote, Senator Lindsey Graham has something to compare with. One of their US investments led to World War II and the Holocaust. US Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova claimed in a statement to the Telegram. State TV host Vladimir Solovyov followed Zakharov's lead on his program Sunday evening with Vladimir Solovyov as he angrily exclaimed, quote, your dirty American money also fully supported the Nazi regime in Germany. You are a Nazi beast and you're following in the footsteps of your predecessors. I'll repeat it once again, you will croak, but the Russian people will live forever. So head of the RT, Margarita Simonyan, appeared on Solovyov's show on Sunday. So there's a lot of broadcasting about this on top of the clip going viral, and did acknowledge that the comments Graham made may have been taken out of context. Here's reporting from the Daily Beast. Simonyan said that she ordered her staff to, quote, look into it. She invoked the name of Soviet Lieutenant General Pavel Sudoplatov, who was involved in several major intelligence operations, including the assassination of Leon Trotsky. Simonyan ominously pointed out, quote, if Lady Graham really said that the money for the killing of Russians is the best money the US ever spent, I hope that in our country, the sons or grandchildren of Sudoplatov are alive, his pupils or the descendants of his pupils. It's not even hard. We have his address. So Graham then shot back at the criticism. So we've got a geopolitical beef happening between Lindsey Graham and the media in Russia. and elected officials in Russia. So, quote, as the usual Russia propaganda machine is hard at work, Graham told Reuters in an emailed statement on Sunday, referring to Medvedev's comments about his Kiev visit, which he had used to urge Washington to send more weapons to Ukraine. Graham said he mentioned Zelensky, quote, that Ukraine has adopted the American mantra, live free or die. It has been a good investment by the United States to help liberate Ukraine from Russian war criminals. He added, Mr. Medvedev, if you want Russians to stop dying in Ukraine, withdraw, stop the invasion, stop the war crimes. The truth that you and President Vladimir Putin could care less about Russian soldiers. The truth is you and Putin could care less about Russian soldiers, he said. So, quite the back and forth. Lindsey Graham going and taking meetings in Ukraine with the Ukrainian President Zelensky is something that I don't really support. I think that we should have members of the foreign policy establishment taking those meetings. When you elect a member of Congress, you're not electing them to be an ambassador. I think in a more direct democracy, we would be electing those who go off and represent our country abroad. It wouldn't be the president we elect appointing them. But Lindsey Graham going abroad and speaking off the cuff and causing geopolitical beefs that could put the American people in some degree of danger, I don't know if I like that at all, Ben. What are your thoughts on this geopolitical beef with Lady Graham?
Yeah, look, Lady Graham, the Graham cracker herself, I think that the bigger issue, because you can always edit something out of context to make somebody look bad, is that regardless of the context, Lindsey Graham did seem to take a bit of glee just in his voice when he said, and the Russians are dying, and kind of smiled through it. It's because these people are children. They think they're playing a game. They're playing the game of Risk, the old board game, but with actual human lives, and they don't care about the consequences, really. They just care about making a mark and making big moves and being able to use the purse of the United States to impose our way, whether it's appropriate or not. Of course, I do supporting the Ukrainian people and their government in this unjust war. It's also an enormous amount of money when we aren't taking care of our own here at home, and that's another issue. But the fact that he was edited out of context, that's always gonna happen. Anybody can edit anything out of context and make people look bad. I do think it was a pretty good slam back, saying that our money also went to fund the Nazis. So, touche on that.
For Graham to say it's the best money we've ever spent as a country, if I was his constituent, I'd be pissed. I don't know. I think that there may be other more hopeful things we've spent money on. I know that we can all agree that any country invading another one as an act of aggression, when it's not in response to something like World War II, where you do have a situation where there's a genocide being committed, this kind of aggressive imperial action at the hands of Russia is bad. But would I say that fighting against Russia is the best money we've ever spent? No, that's weird. And you're right that it has to do with this game of geopolitical chess, right? They're playing Risk. What does Lindsey Graham care about? Lindsey Graham was around during the Cold War era. Lindsey Graham cares about defeating Russia because he sees this as a game of who can control the most capital in the globe. And he wants that to be US-based multinational corporations because that's the money he has invested in stock. And those are the people that give him lobbying money. Like, it's that simple for someone like Lindsey Graham. So when he says something like that, he's not thinking about the consequence of war in terms of human lives. These comments could have really big consequences coming from someone like Lindsey Graham, who's considered to be someone who represents the people in the United States. Does he? No. I think the people of the United States know very well that the United States getting further militarily involved in Ukraine would not be a kind of utilitarian calculation where less lives in total would be lost. I think we would make the situation far worse. And I think his comments are really flagrant, and he shouldn't be allowed to go represent us anymore. Any last thoughts on this, Ben?
Yeah, he's also just a sycophant that is a coward who should never really be listened to, let alone holding powerful office in our nation. It reminds me, I don't know, in my mind, it harkens back to that horrible shooting at the church where all of those black parishioners were murdered, and that one for some reason hit Lindsey Graham's emotions, and he was crying, and he says, "We've now got to do something. Enough is enough already. Enough is enough," the way he said it, implying clearly like, look, I've been down to take money from the NRA. I've been down to let them dictate our gun policy, but this one's a little too far. Maybe now we should stand up for some people, which of course he then subsequently backed down on many times. But it just belies, again, you look always at the story behind the story, the meaning behind the words these people are saying, and you see that their intentions are never with the greater good. Their intentions are with commerce, with money, with lining their pockets, with being the corrupt people they are. And you can tell it when they have little bits of human emotion spill through, how it is just a thin layer of humanity on top of a lifetime of corruption.
Yeah. Why do you think Lindsey Graham's intentions wouldn't be that? That's my question to anyone who thinks we're reaching. Let's turn to something more fun. Watch this.
Guys, I guess this is not stopping. So here's KFC partnering with Diablo 4 and Blizzard Games. And here's an ad with Lilith, the mother of demons, promoting their probably disgusting chicken sandwich called the Double Down. Yeah, I guess they're doubling down on the satanic agenda, which is everywhere right now. This is crazy.
The satanic agenda, satanic panic is so back, baby. The right always needs something to freak out about. They're like little babies. They always say we're all snowflakes and they hate cancel culture, and then they do it the most. They really do. It only seemed natural that they're pissed off about the Diablo video game. Let's hear what the rest of this guy had to say.
Of course, why wouldn't they partner with Diablo 4? And if no Espanol, Diablo means devil in Spanish. Yeah. So here's Diablo 4's official Twitter account, and they're promoting Mother's Day here, showing, mommy and I ruling in hell.
A war between angels and demons. And Lilith serves neither side. She was banished ages ago, but this world is her creation.
I have not come to save, but to empower. I will give you freedom and more.
Yeah, Lilith, the mother of demons. And so here's some promotional cups and napkins from KFC and Diablo 4. So the game comes out June 6th, 6/6/23. 2 times 3 is 6. So yeah, 666. Yeah, times we're living in, guys.
I think it's crazy that he's pissed off about this video game when there are video games where you can kill Iraqis, video games based off of people at war, real wars, real people. But what he's mad about is this fantasy game made about the lore of the Christian church. I don't know, it seems crazy to me. What he's talking about is on May 29th, KFC added a new landing page to its website, announcing the collaboration with Diablo 4, the video game. And many of its restaurants began using the Diablo 4 cups and sandwich wrappers on their merchandise. And this garnered the response, boycott KFC. And you can see they're showing the Diablo packaging there. So here's some more information about that partnership, which isn't catered to the right wing. Spoiler, everything isn't done for you guys. All right, beginning today, May 29th, players will be able to purchase a sandwich or sandwich combo meal via the KFC website or KFC app to receive their first code. Then beginning May 30th, players will be able to link their KFC accounts to their battle.net accounts in order to redeem this code for an in-game cosmetic. Players can continue to purchase select KFC menu items through July 2nd until they have unlocked all 5 exclusive cosmetic rewards. Yes, the very satanic ritual of American advertising. Wow. Look at this. This is the website. You can see very demonic, very scary. Who will think of the children who are now gonna wanna go to hell because it looks pretty cool. Anyway, the reach from them is strong. It's not the first time Diablo's partnered with KFC, but it's the first time they've done so in the era of satanic panic of 2023. Ben, are we all going to hell because we're, a bunch of dirty liberals? What's happening?
Yes, obviously.
Okay.
But small price to pay for great chicken discounts And so I feel like that's fine. You know, at the end of this idiot's comments, he goes, these are the times we're living in, folks, as earnestly as possible. Yeah, the times where idiots spend their time freaked out about a video game partnership with a chicken place. The real risk is just the chicken place itself that's literally giving people heart disease. And the game is one of the least scary games on account of, as you pointed, it is a fantasy game, when there are games when literally you can kill real people, which should be more of the issue, or even more of the issue should be just helping real people in danger of real life killing regardless. At the same time, I did activate some of the codes that involve the chicken and the game. And let me just say, I want to make sure you realize Satan is the true Lord and Master, and you can get a discount on KFC coleslaw if you act now.
And now what are they gonna do? They're gonna boycott KFC? That's what they did for Chick-fil-A. I wanna skip over to this graphic 5. Look at this tweet. Chick-fil-A hired a VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is bad, very bad. I don't want to have to boycott. Are we going to boycott? Are you kidding me? I am someone who likes to have relationships with women, right? I'm a queer woman. I still go to Chick-fil-A. They don't want to go just because they hired someone for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is the most ridiculous reason to boycott anything. Any final thoughts on all this, Ben?
No, I'm just very hungry right now, and I'm gonna go with my devil buddies. What's that?
Let's go get some devil chicken.
I'm interested.
All right, that's where we have to go. Everybody else, stick and stay, because we've got the Young Turks on the other side of this. Ben, the people can find your comedy online and your videos on Rebel HQ. Anything you want to plug?
Sure, on June 10th, I'm doing my next virtual global show in my own weird community of mad ones. Go to bengleib.com or nowherecomedy.com to join us. It's a virtual interactive show. Your cameras and mics can stay on. You can be part of our weird world. And it is a very, very fun release and escape from the madness. So get a ticket right now and join us. It's gonna be a good one.
Thank you, Ben. All right, thanks for being here with us, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, and I will see you on Monday, the best day of the week. Bye, y'all.